The BYD Atto 3, a compact SUV that tempts buyers with a good-looking exterior, a questionable interior, plenty of range, maybe, and tech that is as close to the Tesla experience as you can get. My name is Chris and I've reviewed almost all available electric cars in Australia. I own and drive a Tesla Model Y, but importantly, I actually own a MG ZS EV, the BYD Atto 3's closest competitor. So find out if this is maybe a worthy contender of that, what's good about this car, what's bad, which model you should definitely avoid, and find out if the BYD Atto 3 is right for you. The BYD Atto 3 comes in either a standard range, $48,000 before on-road costs, or $51,011 for the bigger battery versions. Both are identical with 18-inch wheels, two-tone interior, and white paint is free. On the outside, it's pleasant, unassuming, and features clean lines and an athletic posture. What with these black wheel arches that give the appearance of actually being taller than it really is. The front and sides have almost continuous sweeping lines with occasional interruptions like this inset on the C-pillar, blackouts, great for catching bugs, and repeated accents on the rear. It's classed as a compact SUV and competes directly with the MG ZS EV, but the Atto 3 is actually longer, wider, and a smidge shorter just by 10 millimeters. It's built on a dedicated electric vehicle platform, and its designer calls it
Dragon 3.0.
which I'm struggling to see, to be honest. Maybe it's these LED headlights that look a little mean and contrast against his pleasant smile that from a distance makes it, well, pretty pleasing. Overall, it's not very exciting to look at. For $700, you can opt for a boringly titled grey, blue, red or green, which is the exact opposite to its interior. On the inside, there is nothing bland or boring here. I mean, look at these design notes. Supposedly, it's based upon a gym, like weights, dumbbells, muscles and tendons. And I'll give props to BYD for being so brave with these features. But to me, I think this is a quaver, maybe this a treble clef, complemented by guitar strings, which you can play and your kids will annoy you with on road trips. It's very different, especially this soft touch material. Oh, you've been working out. Oh, you need a massage. So in the week and a half I've had this car, I've come to the point where I can look past these quirky elements, subtext, and instead think of it as being bold. The Atto 3 features wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, both recently added with an over-the-air update. You've got USB-A and C in both the front and rear of the cabin, plus a 12-volt socket under this little divider. There's LED interior lighting, including ambient lighting. Just don't choose dynamic because, oh my gosh, you're gonna maybe have a seizure and cause an accident. And controlling most of the car's settings and functions is done through this 12.3-inch screen. Connectivity to the awesome sounding 8-speaker Dirac sound system can be with Bluetooth, SD card, or in the included DAB radio, but not sure why to actually use those because, well, it's basically a lockdown Android tablet. And that means you're going to get the best Spotify experience, especially compared to like Tesla, which runs its own version, which of course doesn't always work nor offer all the Spotify features as in like the full Android version seen here. I've covered system settings and what this screen does, including this little party trick. If you want to learn more, check out the links in the description below or on the end card if I remember. It's got a reasonably sized 440 litres of boot space. That's 30 less than the MG ZS EV, but put the seats down and that increases to 1,340 litres, a full 200 more than the MG. You can also take out the baseboard, meaning you increase the usability of the Atto 3, which I think is probably more than can be said for the MG ZS EV, but neither has a frunk, and that's pretty disappointing because seriously, you could fit easily 50, 70 litres in that space. So if you're in the aftercar market, get into it now before I think BYD adds it, because they should. In the Atto 3, you get a heat pump, heated and powered front seats, tech like mobile app support, and vehicle to load capability so that you can cook up a storm on the go. The mixture of finishes is something that you either like or not like, such as Thankfully, sparing use of piano finishes on the center console, where you'll also find shortcut buttons for climate, drive mode, regen, and more. Up top, there's touch-sensitive LED interior lights along with controls for the sunshade and sunroof. Both very welcome here, especially in Australia. And there's plenty of room back here for everyone. Loads of knee room and headroom, and under thigh support is pretty good with thanks to the incline on the rear pew. I get that looks are subjective, and in 5 years' time, I kind of worry as to how well these soft touch materials will actually do against Australia's sun. Will they be brittle? I don't know. Charging at home can be done with the included 8 amp EVSE unit. That's colloquially known as a granny charger because it's a slow charger, and it's going to give you 8 to 10 k's of range per hour. Most people can get away with it. In fact, with our MG, we did for a good 18 months before we installed one of these. Story here if you want to see about the Zappy wall charger. This works at 7 kilowatts, and the onboard charger of the BYD is also 7 kilowatts. So that's going to give us about 50 k's of range per hour. You can do the math as to how much it will take to recharge your car. Remembering most of the time you just plug it in, let it charge overnight, and you'll wake up to a full battery, which is awesome because this is a blade type battery and it's a lithium iron phosphate. Iron like I-R-O-N, yeah? And you can charge this to 100% every single time. It's got a long life cycle. You can recharge it many, many times, and it's awesome. I don't particularly like the fact that the actual charging port is located at the front right corner here near the A pillar, but nonetheless, you've got your typical CCS combo, so AC fast charging through the top, or take this little socket out and you go to DC fast charging, which actually, yeah, let's go do it now. You can see why I criticise having the charging port at the front A pillar here, and it's because you have to get really close to the actual charger because of these short cables, and it puts a bit of stretch on it. Much rather see it around the C pillar or boot zone like what you see in a Tesla. Nonetheless, a DC fast charging with the BYD Atto 3, if you've got the 50 kilowatt hour version, it goes up to 70 kilowatts, or if you've got the 60 kilowatt hour version, it goes up to 80 kilowatts. And surprisingly, in this charging session right now, I've gone to like 88. So it's better? Can you explain that and put it in the comments below as to what's happening here? But nonetheless, look at this figure. It's going to take us more than an hour to go from 10 to 100%. That's not very good if you absolutely had to charge your car to full to be able to get to the next charging spot. And you know, range, we're going to be talking about range soon. That's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Most cars actually have faster DC fast charging than this. Sure, the original MG ZS EV wasn't. The newest one is a lot better. And this, well, I'd love to see in the next version, faster rapid charging. Let's talk about battery. In Australia, the BYD Atto 3 is available in 2 options. A 50 kilowatt hour version giving you 320 clicks, and a 60 kilowatt hour version giving you 420 kilometers of range, both on the WLTP cycle. Now, you see this? Don't believe it. Same with BYD's website, and weirdly in the manual it says 480, including the sticker. Yet, it's rated at 14.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, meaning this battery should give you 405 kilometers of range. Now, in my experience, it's more like 16 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks, and the car's lifetime average, 16.7. So divide one into the other, and you get 359 kilometers of real-world range. If you're new to the EV community, this isn't false advertising by BYD. It's just how the tests are conducted. And we all know how these fuel efficiency stickers are basically,
it ain't gonna happen.
Now, remember how in the intro I said there was one car to avoid? Well, that would obviously be the 50 kilowatt hour version, as it will only get you about 300 kilometers on a full charge. And for an additional $3,000, you get 60 extra kilometers of range, real world range, and that will mean less charging sessions and more range when it actually counts, say on long trips. Let's talk about driving the BYD Atto 3. Seat is pretty comfortable, it's well bolstered and holds you in place pretty nicely, and it kind of reminds me of gaming chairs which are actually based upon car chairs. So yeah, just go figure as to which one ever came first. The binnacle, which is front and center here, is tiny, and the speedometer is even tinier. And they're giving way too much space to the active cruise control diagram, the pictogram, telling you if you're in the lane and if it's following and stuff like that. They could definitely increase the font size of the speed, because right now, unless I've got these glasses on, it's a bit blurry to me, and yeah, it could definitely be bigger. Switchgear is sufficient. It feels cheaper than the MG and definitely way cheaper than a Tesla, but it does the job. Visibility is pretty good out the front, except for the A-pillar. It's massive. To the side, it's good. Mirrors are brilliant. Also the rear view mirror here as well. And the screen at the back, yeah, it's small, but it's a small car and you expect it. And it's no worse than, let's say, the Tesla Model Y, but the MG ZS definitely has got a better view out the back. The Atto 3 is front-wheel drive with a single electric motor that produces 150 kilowatts of power and 310 newton meters of torque. And that's regardless of which version you buy. You've got 3 different drive modes, Eco, Normal and Sport. But for the life of me, I can't work out any difference between them. In most other EVs I've reviewed, changing this mode actually alters the response of the accelerator. And on this, I don't feel no change whatsoever. You don't actually feel it. And it's not like it accelerates faster or slower as well. Again, you can't feel the difference. Maybe it's very subtle, and like its regen is really subtle, which I can only describe as great if you're coming from a petrol or diesel car. But if you're coming from an electric car that has one pedal driving, it's infuriating. It really is. And why is it infuriating? Because there's no one pedal driving. And to add insult to injury, the brake pedal is used to fully engage regen on either one of 2 levels, either normal or high, and it's not high. It definitely is not high. And slowing down, if I just let my foot on the accelerator, it will do this. We're just coasting along here. It'll eventually stop, and I can see it's actually doing a little bit of regen, but to bring it to a complete stop, I've got to put my foot on the brake, and then it stops. It's got auto hold, but yeah, come on. Like, this is 2023 BYD. One pedal driving, you can do it. Software update. This is what happened with Tesla. They did a software update and suddenly cars overnight were just beautiful to drive. And we can all thank Nissan Leaf for that, by the way. Ride and handling is pretty good, but no thanks to those trashy Batman wheels. I mean, I kid you not, these 18-inch wheels, I believe are pretty much bog standard, and they come from the factory in Thailand, weren't customized for Australia either. And they don't offer a lot of grip, and I doubt, well, you'd actually keep them on your car after they wear out, because yeah, they're pretty thin, they're not very grippy, and as soon as you can change those tires, do. Compared to the MG ZS EV, that's the 2022 model, mind you, because the first one was, his handling was a bit garbage, to be honest. It's right up there with handling like bumps, knocks, and our trashy roads. Better than my Tesla Model Y? Sure, because it's a lot softer and more compliant. Giving you that SUV ride, of which, you know, I was critical of Tesla about. Acceleration is pretty smooth, and steering is well weighted. Turning circle is amazing, like a bit over 10 meters. I mean, this thing is perfect for car parks and tight spaces. Acceleration test, 0 to 100. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, so a few things. Did you see what happened there? When I hit the accelerator, there's a slight delay, and I don't understand why it does that, but it's definitely there. I really don't know if you could see in that footage, but for the briefest of moments, it did lose composure, and it's not helped by those tires, and the brakes are a little bit mushy, shall we say, definitely. So to summarize ride and handling, It's a comfortable everyday car, like from going to work, say, dropping the kids to school, doing some errands at the shops. But until you change out those tires and understand the limitations of the brakes, the Atto 3 instills some nervousness into you. I mean, I doubt people buying this car will be going to be throwing it around the road and taking like fast, tight, mountainous corners. No, it's not the sort of car, is it? After all, it's a compact SUV. But for what it is, the price point it is, and how it can be easily remedied with better tires, I think this is very comparable to the MG ZS EV, and comfort and ride is better than the Tesla Model Y, the 2022 version like my one. So yeah, it's a good car. My final thoughts on the BYD Atto 3. It's an excellent compact SUV that just so happens to be electric. If you're coming from a petrol or diesel car, you'll be right at home here and appreciate its build quality, which is good, and its tech. They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and the Atto 3 borrows heavily from Tesla, from the user experience like mobile app, keycard, freaking over-the-air updates, aircom, and almost all settings handled through that central screen. Tesla has perfected stuff, and BYD is pretty damn close as well. Sure, Android Auto requires you to press either of these buttons to get back to the home screen, but perhaps you don't need to because of these other welcome and very handy duplicate, even triplicate buttons. Some will write in the comments below, it's unnecessary and bad user interface, but why not? If you can, you got space, do it. So when you consider what you're getting for around $50,000, it's hard to fault the BYD Atto 3, or is it? Things like its cheap tires, frequency of servicing, they play on my mind, especially if I was the owner. The roughly $299 per year is better than what they previously announced around this time last year, but seriously, it's electric. What are they servicing? Timing belt, spark plugs, oil? No, most of these services will just be an inspection and perhaps maybe a change of the coolant for the high voltage battery. So BYD, can you just stop price gouging, please? So all in all, its range is sufficient, especially at this price point. And when you're shopping against like similar electric cars, it's actually worthy of a try, especially if you can't decide between this or the MG ZS EV. What would you choose? What would I choose? I don't know. We've got the upcoming BYD Dolphin as well as the MG4. They are smaller, but they also have more range, and the MG's rear-wheel drive. So maybe if you want to go for a smaller car, wait for them and check them out. If you want to see a full detail about the specifications of those two cars, please check out this video here and look it down in the description below. But otherwise, that's basically it. The BYD Atto 3 and my review of it. I'd like to thank Anthony for making this video possible, because my Tesla was actually in service, and for the last week and a half I've actually been using this Atto 3. And have I missed a Tesla? Sure. Is this good? Sure, it's good. It's better than the MG. I think it is. I've answered that point. There you go. If you've enjoyed this content, please do consider subscribing. It absolutely helps out the channel. Think about giving me a coffee through Ko-fi. Check out Patreon, and otherwise, you be good and you be green.